Most people think bad credit starts with a collection. It doesn't. Some people think it starts with a repossession. It doesn't. Some people think it starts when they get denied. It does not. By the time those things happen, the story has usually been unfolding for a while. Most of the time, it starts with one late payment. One payment that didn't seem like a big deal at the time. One payment that people say, I'll catch it next month. But here's the thing. You called it one late payment. The system called it a change in behavior. Tonight, let's talk about the difference. Welcome to the Real Credit Talk Show, audio edition. I'm your host, Tiana Mayers, also known as Lady T. Founder of Beyond Credit Limits Corporation. And this is where we break down how credit actually works. Not from opinion, not from guesswork, but from how the system is designed to read you. This is a Beyond Credit Limits production. If you want to understand how your situation connects to what we talk about here, you can visit www.beyondcreditlimits.com. And if you've been tapped into the brand, you already know what it is, www.thatmerchmood.com. This is a space where we stop repeating credit myths. Stop chasing surface level advice and start breaking down how the system actually works. Not the watered down version, not the social media version, not the version people throw around without context. The real version, the structured version. The version that helps you understand what is actually happening when your name, your information, your accounts, your behavior, and your decisions all come together inside a credit profile. So wherever you're listening from, I want you to settle in, because this conversation is not just about credit. It's about how your profile is being read before you ever get an answer. Now let's go. Tonight is not about your credit. Let me say that again. Tonight is not about your credit. Because if this episode was simply about credit, we'd be done in like 5 minutes. This episode is really about something much bigger. It's about the moment almost everyone thinks doesn't matter until it does. Can I ask you something? Have you ever noticed how we almost always minimize the first mistake? It's only one payment. It's only one speeding ticket. It's only one skipped workout. It's only one argument. It's only one drink. It's only one. We do that. We do that because our minds naturally believe one moment. One moment can't possibly change the story And sometimes that's true. And sometimes one moment doesn't change anything. But sometimes one moment is exactly where the story begins to change. And the difficult part is you usually don't know which one it is until you're looking backwards. Now here's what's interesting. Nobody tells themselves, I'm about to start having credit problems. Nobody says that. What they usually say is, I'll take care of it next paycheck. I'm trying to get through this month. Things will be better after this. Once I catch up, I'll be fine. Sound familiar? Because I think almost everybody listening has either said one of those things, all of those things, or knows someone who has. Because when life happens, your focus isn't on your credit reports. Your focus is surviving, keeping the lights on, making rent, making mortgage, making the car payment, getting your kids what they need, trying to make sure everybody around you is okay. That's real life. But while we're trying to survive, something else was quietly happening. Your credit profile was recording your financial activity. Not your intentions. Not your stress. Not your explanation. Not the fact that your hours got cut. Not the fact that your car broke down. Not the fact that life blindsided you. It's simply recorded what happened. And that's why tonight's conversation matters, because you and the system may have been looking at the exact same situation from two completely different perspectives. Same situation, two completely different interpretations. And if you've never stopped to think about that before, I want you to stay with me tonight, because by the end of this episode, I don't necessarily want you looking at your credit differently. I want you looking at your decisions differently. Welcome to episode 13 of the Real Credit Talk Show. I'm Tiana Mayers, Lady T. Ew. We're talking about the quiet moment that often happens long before any of those things. The moment almost nobody talks about. One late payment. Not because one late payment automatically ruins your life or your credit. It doesn't. We're talking about it because sometimes that's where the story quietly changes. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Quietly. Almost without you noticing. And by the time you do notice, you're already asking yourself, how did I get here? Tonight, I don't want to answer that question for everybody, because everybody's story is different. What I want to do is help you start asking better questions about your story. Because every credit profile tells a story. And no two stories are exactly the same. So let's talk about it. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Have you ever noticed that we usually don't recognize the beginning of a problem while we're living through it? We recognize it later, after everything settles down, after we've had time to think, after we've had time to look backwards. That's when we say, I should've, if I would've, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I wish I had. It's amazing how clear life becomes after you've already lived it. But while you're living it, it's messy, it's emotional, it's unpredictable. And that's exactly why I wanted to have this conversation, because credit doesn't exist outside of life. It exists right in the middle of it. Can we be honest for a second? Nobody wakes up excited to pay bills. Okay? Nobody jumps up out of bed saying, I can't wait to make this credit card payment today. We paying bills because we have responsibilities, because we're adults, because life requires it. But every now and then, life throws something at you that you never planned for. Maybe your hours got cut. Maybe your child got sick. Maybe business slowed down. Maybe your transmission gave out. Maybe somebody in your family needed help. Maybe your rent increased. Maybe groceries doubled. Gas prices quadrupled. Maybe you were simply trying to survive. Now you're sitting at the kitchen table, 3 bills in front of you, enough money to pay one. Which one do you choose? The lights? The rent? The car? The credit card? See, that's a real conversation. And millions of people have had it. Some are having it tonight. So when somebody says, I was only late one time, I don't automatically assume they were irresponsible. I assume life probably happened. But here's where I need everybody listening. 2 separate conversations. There's your life, and then there's your credit profile. Your life knows why you were late. Your credit profile doesn't. Your life remembers the struggle. Your credit profile records the activity. Those are 2 different conversations. And if you don't understand that, credit can feel very unfair. Because you're saying, but you don't understand what I was going through. And the system is saying, I'm not recording what you went through. I'm recording what happened. Whoa, right? That's why this episode isn't about blame. It's about perspective. Because perspective changes decisions. Here's another question. Why do we always say it's only one payment? We don't say it's only one flat tire. We don't say it's only one cavity. Maybe, I don't know, but That one is kind of like maybe a hit or miss. We don't say it's only one leak in the roof because we understand those things can grow. But when it comes to money, we have a tendency to minimize the beginning. Not because we're lying, because we're hoping. We're hoping next month will be better. We're hoping overtime comes back. We're hoping business picks up. We're hoping tax season helps. We're hoping something changes. Hope isn't a bad thing, but hope without a plan usually becomes another month, then another, then another. And before you know it, you're no longer talking about one payment. You're talking about catching up. You know what I find interesting? People rarely remember the exact day everything started going wrong. Ask somebody, when did your financial situation change? Most people can't tell you the exact date. They'll say it was sometime after. It was around the time. I think it started because financial change usually isn't one big explosion. It's a slow leak. Little decisions, little setbacks, little delays. 1 month, then another, until one day you're looking around saying, how did I get here? And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation. Not because I think one late payment defines you. It doesn't. But because sometimes one late payment is the first clue that something bigger was happening underneath the surface. Think about relationships. Nobody says we broke up because of one argument. It usually wasn't one argument. It was a series of conversations, a series of misunderstandings, a series of moments that quietly changed the relationship. Credit can be very similar. One payment doesn't usually tell the entire story, but it might tell you the story has started changing. And that's why I've always encouraged people, don't ignore the beginning. Pay attention to it. Because the earlier you recognize something, the more options you usually have. Now let me ask you one more question. If you knew that one small decision today could quietly affect opportunities 6 months from now, would you look at that decision differently? Most people would. Not because they're afraid, because now they understand. There's more connected to it than they realize. That's what tonight is about. Not fear, awareness. Because awareness changes behavior. And change behavior can change outcomes. So when somebody tells me, Tiana, it was only one late payment, I don't immediately start talking about credit. I start asking questions. What was happening in your life? What changed? What happened before that payment? What happened after? Because those answers tell me much more than the late payment by itself. Every profile has a story. Every story has context. And that's exactly why I don't believe in giving blanket advice. Because I haven't seen your story. I haven't seen your profile. I haven't seen your situation. That's why I don't guess. Not because I enjoy asking questions, because I refuse to assume that your story is the same as everybody else's. So before we go to break, I want to leave you with this one thought. Maybe the late payment wasn't the lesson. Maybe it was the warning. We'll be right back.
Most people think credit is just a score. It's not. Your credit can affect where you live, what you drive, your interest rates, approvals, deposits, business funding, and even the opportunities available to you. At Beyond Credit Limits, we help consumers understand how the system actually works. This isn't about gimmicks. This is about structure, strategy, education, and financial positioning. Whether you're trying to rebuild, organize your financial profile, understand collections, prepare for home ownership, or create a stronger financial foundation, Beyond Credit Limits was built to help you move with intention. The consultation is where everything starts. We review your situation, identify what's happening inside your credit profile, and map out the next steps based on your goals. Stop guessing, stop moving blind, and stop letting misinformation cost you financially. Visit www.beyondcreditlimits.com and fill out your consultation today. Again, that's www.beyondcreditlimits.com. Beyond Credit Limits, because financial freedom starts with understanding the system.
And we're back. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Before the break, I said something I want to come back to. Maybe the late payment wasn't the lesson. Maybe it was the warning. Think about that for a second, because warnings don't always look like emergencies. Sometimes they're quiet. Sometimes they're subtle. Sometimes they're trying to tell us something before something bigger happens. And I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes people make, including myself. They spend so much time asking, how do I fix this? That they never stop to ask, what was this trying to tell me? Those are two completely different questions. Have you ever looked back over your life, not just financially, but your life, and realized the signs were there all along? Okay, maybe in a relationship, maybe with your health, maybe with your business, maybe with your finances. Looking back, you start connecting the dots. But while you were living it, they just looked like random moments. That's how life works. And honestly, that's how credit works too. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, today's the day I'm going to have bad credit. It does not happen like that. It's usually a missed payment here, a balance that kept growing there, an application you probably shouldn't have submitted, a bill that got pushed back, another month where you said, I'll deal with it later. Not because you were lazy, because your attention was pulled somewhere else. Here's what I find interesting. People will remember exactly why they were late. I lost my job. My hours got cut. I had surgery. My dog got sick. My business slowed down. My rent increased. And every one of those reasons is real. Every single one. But here's the question. Did anything change after life got better? Or did the financial habits stay the same? See, that's where the real conversation begins. Because sometimes the season creates the problem. Sometimes our habits keep it alive. And those are two different things. I tell people all the time, don't confuse a season with a lifestyle. Everybody goes through seasons. Good ones, bad ones, unexpected ones. But a season is supposed to end. The question becomes, did your financial behavior change when the season changed? Or did the season leave behind habits that you never noticed? That's why I don't like using the phrase, it's only one payment. Because that sentence ends the conversation. I'd rather ask, what was happening in your life when that payment was missed? What happened after that? Did things improve? Did they get worse? Did you recover? Now we're having a conversation. You know something else? I think people spend too much time trying to figure it out. Again, I'm a candidate of it. How the system feels. The system doesn't feel. It observes. It records. It updates. That's what it does. It doesn't know that your child was in the hospital. It doesn't know you were taking care of your mother. It doesn't know you were working 2 jobs. It doesn't know you were trying to keep your business alive. It simply records what was reported. Now, does that make it fair? That's not the conversation. The conversation is understanding how it works. Because once you understand something, you stop expecting it to behave differently. You start learning how to navigate it. That's a completely different mindset. Think about a GPS. If the GPS says turn left and you decide to turn right, the GPS doesn't get emotional. It doesn't punish you. It simply recalculates. The system works similar. It responds to activity, not intentions. Activity. That's why I always tell people, learn how the system reads behavior instead of arguing with how it should read behavior. One approach creates frustration. The other creates strategy. Now, here's something I don't think enough people talk about. Sometimes the biggest financial mistake isn't the late payment. Sometimes it's pretending everything is okay afterward. You stop opening your mail. You avoid logging into your accounts. You don't want to look at your credit profile. You tell yourself, I'll check it later. But later has a funny way of becoming 6 months or even a year. And during that time, life keeps moving. The reporting keeps happening. The balances keep changing. The opportunities keep coming, whether you're ready for them or not. And that's why avoidance is so expensive. Not because looking fixes anything, because understanding gives you options. One of my favorite sayings is, you can't solve a problem you refuse to look at. Think about that. Think about how many people are afraid to check their credit because they're scared of what they'll find. I understand that feeling. But fear doesn't change what's already there. Understanding does. That's why I say to people, don't let fear become your financial strategy. It has never worked. It never will. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway so far. Curiosity matters here. Curious enough to stop assuming. Curious enough to look a little closer. Curious enough to realize that maybe your story deserves more than a guess. Because every single consultation I've ever done starts the exact same way. Someone calls in, thinking they already know what happened. Then we start going through the profile together. And somewhere during that conversation, they stop. And they listen to me. And they say, I never realized that. That's the moment. Not because I told them something special. Because we stopped guessing and started understanding. And if tonight, this episode helped you ask one better question, then we're exactly where I hoped we'd be. It's time for one of my favorite parts of the show. Questions from the community. Let's see what came in this week. Before I get into tonight's questions, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that is listening and supporting, whether you know it or not, whether you care or not. Seriously, thank you. Every single week, you all send questions from all over the states. Some are about credit, some are about life, and some are about situations you've been carrying around for years. And I don't take that lightly. Because asking a question means you trust me enough to help you think through it. And I appreciate that. Now, if tonight's conversation made you stop and think, I've never looked at a late payment like that before, good. Because that's exactly why this show exists. Not to scare you, not to embarrass you, not to tell you everything you've done wrong, but to help you understand that there's usually more to the story than people realize. If you'd like your question featured on a future episode, send it to The Real Credit Talk Show at beyondcreditlimits.com. Include your first name and your state, or simply write anonymous. Either way, I read every single one. All right, let's get into tonight's questions. And just in advance, I apologize. If it is, I say your name wrong, I am not intentionally doing that. I know how I feel when someone says my name wrong. They be like, Tiana. Tiona. Tina. Tiana. Tanya. Everything but Tiana. So I do understand, and please forgive me if I do say it wrong. All right. Kiani, New Hampshire. I was only 30 days late one time. Everything else has been on time. Should I still be worried? Keone, I wouldn't spend my energy worrying. I'd spend my energy understanding. Because worrying doesn't change anything. Understanding does. One late payment by itself doesn't tell your entire financial story. It's one chapter, not the whole book. The better question is, what does the rest of my credit profile look like? Because that's where the real conversation begins. Adrena, Arkansas. If I know I'm going to be late, is it better to make a partial payment or wait until I can pay the whole thing? That's actually a really thoughtful question. And here's why. You're already thinking ahead. You're already asking questions before the situation becomes bigger. I like that. The answer depends on the creditor, their policies, your account, your situation, which is exactly why I don't believe in giving a generic answer or even advice, because your situation may not look anything like someone else's. That's why the next step depends on the details. The goal is to understand your options before the situation gets bigger. Deshawn, Oregon. People tell me one late payment isn't a big deal. Other people tell me it's the end of the world. Which one is true? Neither. And that's probably not the answer you were expecting. But context matters, always. One late payment doesn't automatically destroy your financial future, but it's also not something I'd ignore. That's why I always encourage people, stop asking, is this good or bad? Start asking, how does this fit into the rest of my profile? Because that's the question that actually matters. Noel, Mississippi. If I catch the late payment up right away, will my credit report look like it never happened? I completely understand why people ask that. If we fix something, we naturally expect everything to go back the way it was. Life doesn't always work like that. Neither does credit. Bringing the account current is absolutely the right thing to do, always, but bringing it current and rewriting history are two different conversations. And understanding that difference helps set realistic expectations. Tavion, Utah. Can one late payment affect more than just my credit score? Absolutely. Sometimes people become so focused on the credit score that they forget that there's an entire credit profile behind it. Different lenders. Different lenders look at different things. Different situations. Different situations lead to different outcomes. That's one of the reasons I always encourage people, don't become obsessed with number one. Understand the bigger picture, because that's where the answers usually are. Anonymous. What's the biggest lesson you hope people take away from tonight? Okay, that's the easy one. I hope people stop saying it was only one late payment without ever asking what changed. Because that's really what tonight has been about. Not judging the payment, understanding the moment, understanding the behavior, understanding the story. Because once you understand the story, you're in a much better position to write the next chapter differently. Let's bring tonight's conversation back together. We started tonight talking about one late payment. Just one. Something people say every single day. It was only one payment. And maybe it was. Maybe it really was one payment, one difficult month, one unexpected expense, one season of life that you never saw coming, because tonight wasn't really about the payment. It was about perspective. Because you've experienced a difficult season, the credit profile recorded financial activity. Those aren't the same conversation. And that's what I wanted you to hear tonight. I want you looking at your future differently, because once you understand how the system reads behavior, you stop making assumptions. You start making decisions with intention. And that's a powerful place to be. You don't have to know every answer tonight. You don't have to understand every part of your credit profile tonight. But I hope you leave this episode asking better questions than you had before you press play. Okay? Because better questions usually lead to better decisions. And better decisions have a way of changing much bigger things. If episode 13 taught you anything tonight, I hope it wasn't simply that late payments matter. I hope it taught you to stop looking at financial decisions as isolated moments. Because very few financial decisions exist by themselves. They're connected to the season of life you were in, connected to the decisions that came before them, connected to the opportunities that come after them. And sometimes we spend so much time trying to erase yesterday that we never stop long enough to understand it. You can't rewrite yesterday. None of us can. But you can absolutely learn from it. And that's what tonight has really been about. Not guilt, not shame, not fear, understanding. Because understanding changes awareness. Awareness changes behavior. And behavior has a way of changing outcomes. Here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you turning this episode off thinking, well, I've already had late payments. I've already made mistakes. It's too late for me. No, that's not what tonight was about. Tonight was about recognizing that every financial story has a beginning. And if you can recognize the beginning, you put yourself in a much better position to influence what comes next. Maybe tonight you realize something about yourself. Maybe you realize something about your financial habits. Maybe you realize that you've been looking at your credit reports without really understanding what it is trying to communicate to you. And if that's you, don't guess, because your situation isn't everybody else's situation. Every credit report tells a different story. That's exactly why consultations exist. Not so someone can tell you what you want to hear, but so someone can help you understand what you're actually looking at. If tonight's conversation made you realize, I really don't understand what my credit profile is saying, you're not alone. That's exactly why Beyond Credit Limits exists. Our credit review consultation is designed to help you understand what's being reported, how your credit profile is being read, and what may be affecting your financial opportunities. Not somebody else's profile, yours. Because every credit profile tells a different story, and every strategy should be built around facts, not assumptions. If you're ready to better understand your credit profile, visit www.beyondcreditlimits.com and complete the consultation request. Everything starts with understanding, and understanding is where better financial decisions begin. Before I close, I want to leave you with this. No question is insignificant. Your questions matter because you matter. Knowledge creates options, and options create leverage. For everyone listening tonight, if this episode caused you to look at late payments differently, don't let the lesson stop here. Take what you've learned, apply it, and make the next decision a better one. Submit your questions to the Real Credit Talk Show at beyondcreditlimits.com. Your first name and state, or anonymous, your choice. I read everyone. And your question may be answered right here on a future episode. Ask the question the assumption, understand the behavior before it becomes the consequence. Then move forward with knowledge, not assumptions. And remember this, every credit profile has a story. Every financial decision adds another page. The goal isn't to pretend yesterday never happened. The goal is to make sure tomorrow tells a better story. Because once you understand what the system is reading, you stop reacting and you start positioning yourself with purpose. That shift alone can change far more than a credit profile. It can change the way you make financial decisions for years to come. This has been the Real Credit Talk Show, hosted by me, Tiana Mayers, also known as Lady T, founder of Beyond Credit Limits Corporation. Visit us at www.beyondcreditlimits.com. And if you know the brand, you already know www.thatmerchmood.com. Until next time, keep learning, keep positioning, and keep moving with intention. The Real Credit Talk Show is a Beyond Credit Limits production. Visit us online, www.beyondcreditlimits.com. Official merchandise, www.thatmerchmood.com. Thank you for listening. Remember, you called it one late payment. The system called it a change in behavior. Have a good night.